Hi everybody. When Ford launched the new Bronco, it was clear to everyone watching that, yes, the Bronco is going to be good off-road. What wasn't as clear though is how good is that smaller Bronco Sport model going to be off-road. We know Ford designed it to get out there and get dirty, but is it actually going to be better than its counterparts from Jeep? Well, that's exactly the question I want to answer in this video. So we'll go over all the specs, all the stats and 4x4 systems on that Bronco Sport and discuss whether or not this small crossover is actually going to be any good when the pavement ends. The first point that has to be made gives the smaller Bronco Sport a leg up on that full-size 2-door and 4-door Bronco, and it's just availability. The Bronco Sport will actually be in Ford dealers before the end of 2020. So if you really want a Bronco Sport, you don't have too long to wait, whereas the full-size 2- and 4-door Bronco, those models will not hit the market until spring of 2021. So if you're salivating from a Bronco, you have a few months longer to wait. These are the photos that actually spurred this video. A viewer sent them in to us from the greater Denver area, and this is just a Bronco Sport out there testing in the wild. It probably belongs to someone at Ford. A lot of the times the engineers and executives will get to drive these vehicles before they launch to the public in order to really put them through a proper test on public roads. Now this Bronco Sport that you're looking at right here is a Badlands trim, and the Badlands is the most off-road worthy Bronco Sport that you can buy. Now you can tell it's a Badlands because of those tires. Now let me read you the list of features that are going to come standard on the Bronco Sport Badlands. So if you go for this is the most off-road ready model Bronco Sport you can buy. You're going to get the upgraded 2-liter EcoBoost engine. You're going to get the off-road suspension system, advanced 4x4 with the twin clutch rear drive unit. That's something we'll get back to later on. A standard set of 28.5-inch all-terrain tires, terrain management systems. You're going to get 7 of those, an 8-speed automatic transmission, metal skid plates underneath, Ford's trail control system, a front 180-degree camera with a washer, a set of front tow hooks, 17-inch carbonized gray painted aluminum wheels, and you're going to get rubberized flooring. That is a solid list of off-road equipment, and one of my favorites actually is the rubberized flooring. Might seem like a small thing, and this doesn't just apply to off-roading, that's why I like it. If you're doing any outdoor activity, rubberized flooring is great. You don't have any carpets to deal with when you jump back into your Bronco with wet, muddy boots or whatever you happen to be doing. So love that feature, but there are 2 omissions on this list I kind of think Ford should have brought into the Bronco Sport. The first one, probably the biggest, a rear locking differential. Now the Bronco can simulate a locker, I'll explain that in a second, and the other one is a transfer case. There is no proper 2-speed T-case here, there's no transfer case at all actually, so there is no low range gear reduction. Ford does list a crawl ratio, but that is just with this thing stuck down into first gear, and according to the brand, that crawl ratio comes in at 18:1. So yes, it would have been nice to see an actual low range ratio and a locker, but in place of that locker, Ford has used its twin clutch 4x4 system, which actually sounds pretty smart. The Bronco Sport is a front-wheel drive based vehicle, so once it sends its power to the rear, there are actually individual clutch packs to control how much power gets to each wheel. That is how the Bronco can simulate a locker. It can essentially lock up both of those clutch packs at the same time, and that should essentially work the same way. Now, this is never quite as good as a traditional rear locker because clutches can slip. A mechanical locker can't, or at least it shouldn't, and if it is, you got a big problem. So the Bronco Sport didn't go all the way for that locker. They went pretty close though. Now let me take you back to these parking lot photos and just sort of offer a few observations. First of all, front tow hooks, they look fairly easy to get to, and that's going to be important for recovery. It's always nice to be able to recover your vehicle. Next, this thing is not very high off the ground, so you're not going to need running boards or side steps, and that's something you definitely do not want in your off-roader anyways. Finally, I just want to say I think Ford did a great job with this family front end, making the Bronco Sport look like a baby Bronco. Having that common front end just means anytime a Bronco's behind you in your mirror, you're going to know immediately exactly what it is, kind of like with a Jeep. Now, talking about Jeep, it's time to talk about the competition. Ford says that this Bronco Sport is pretty squarely aimed at the Jeep Compass and the Jeep Cherokee, which are actually kind of similar vehicles, although the Cherokee of the bunch offers the most off-road equipment. Now, let's talk about some numbers and we will see how this thing really stacks up. First, powertrains. So this Bronco Sport is going to offer a base 1.5 liter turbocharged 3-cylinder that makes 181 horsepower and 190 pound-feet of torque. And of course, the upgraded engine, it offers 245 horsepower and 275 pound-feet of torque, and that is a 2 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. Looking at the Jeep Compass, that thing only offers one engine and it makes less power than even the base Bronco Sport. It's a 2.4 liter i4 with 180 horsepower and 175 pound-feet of torque. Now moving over to the Jeep Cherokee, that thing offers the most choices, 3 different engine options. You can get that same 2.4, or you can get a turbo 2 liter with 270 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque, or you can also get a straight up naturally aspirated V6. This is the only V6 out of the group. You'll also notice that 6 is making 271 horsepower and 239 pound-feet of torque. To compare off-road numbers, we have to talk about the different trims because the base models here do not get the same numbers as the best off-roaders. In Bronco Sport, we're talking about the Badlands trim, and then from Jeep, we're talking about the Compass and the Cherokee Trailhawk models, and that is important when I go over these next set of numbers. So the Ford Bronco Sport with the optional 29-inch tires offers 8.8 inches of ground clearance. Cherokee Trailhawk models, 8.7 inches, and then Compass Trailhawk, 8.5 inches. So yes, actually of the group, the Bronco Sport offers the most ground clearance by just 0.1 of an inch over that Jeep Cherokee. Looking at approach angle, the Bronco Sport actually also wins this category again by just a hair. Bronco Sport offers 30.4 degrees, Jeep Compass 30.3 degrees, and then that Jeep Cherokee surprisingly only has 29.9 degrees of approach. Departure angle, the Bronco Sport has 20.4 degrees, the Compass beats it with 24.4, and then the Cherokee comes in at 22.9. And of course, the big thing with breakover has to do with wheelbase. So let me talk you through the wheelbases now so you also get a sense for how big these things are. The Jeep Compass is the shortest wheelbase at 103.8 inches. Bronco Sport, slightly longer at 105.1 inches, and then finally the Jeep Cherokee is 107.1 inches. So not a big spread, but that is important to note. If you're looking at Bronco Sport wheelbase-wise, it's right in between that Compass and that Cherokee. Departure angle also very close, 33.1 in the Bronco, 33.6 in the Compass, that's the best of the group, and 33.2 in that Cherokee. So numbers wise, these are super similar vehicles. And you know what? I've been off-road actually in Moab in both the Cherokee and the Compass Trailhawk. And you know what? The Compass doesn't feel like that much of an off-road vehicle, and it's for the reasons I mentioned: no low range and no locker, and those are two things that the Cherokee corrects. So of this group, and of course I haven't driven the Bronco Sport yet, but of the group, it still sounds like the Cherokee is going to be the most off-road worthy, and I'm worried that despite the fact Ford spent so much time pitching the Bronco as an off-roader, it's not gonna be the best off-road. Again, they could have taken it a little further. And my experience with the Compass and Moab kind of backs that up. It feels fine off-road, but it's just, the numbers aren't quite there. The angles aren't quite there. There's so many things on basic trails. I ran 7 Mile Rim, and even on that trail, there were some, rock steps and precipices where the Compass was right at its limit already. So I think Ford is pushing this Bronco Sport as a lifestyle vehicle, and I think that's how you should view it too. Good if you want to get your kayaks out to the trail, your canoe, your puppy, something like that. Probably not the best choice if you're just a straight up off-roader looking to hit the trail and have a bunch of fun. that is my take on this Bronco Sport, and it's just because I know the Compass is kind of meh off-road, and frankly this looks a lot like a Compass. Now I hope I'm wrong. I hope that when I get out there the Bronco Sport impresses me. It does have some pretty cool features. It has GOAT modes. That's what Ford is calling its new terrain modes, GOAT modes. There's 7 of those, and then this thing also has Ford's trail control system. That is off-road cruise control. One of my favorite parts of trail control is it can run up to 30 kilometers an hour. You can crank up the speeds here. That is something that most of the other systems don't do. So there is some unique cachet to this Bronco Sport. The back end too, the glass opens up. I think that's a pretty neat little feature a lot of people missed. So the Bronco Sport has a ton going for it. I just don't know how good off-road it's gonna be, and I gotta tell you, I am skeptical, but I cannot wait to test it out. We know it's coming before the end of this year, so hopefully that means I have one in my hands in the not too distant future. Now guys, that is it for this video, and of course I want to hear your comments. Go below, let me know which one would you buy, a Compass, a Cherokee, or a Bronco Sport. Let me know what you think of this Bronco Sport sitting out there in the wild. Hey, let me know if you spotted one yet. I've seen some tweets floating around of Bronco Sports all around the Detroit area as well. So hey, maybe you've spotted one. Like I said, that's it for this one. Go below, leave that comment, hit like, hit subscribe, and then come right back to the channel for the latest news, views, and real world reviews. See ya.